I'm going to be installing a diesel heater in my 2020 Mercedes Sprinter van. It's going to be pretty much the same install from a 2007 all the way up to the present Sprinters. So the first thing I needed to do was take off the passenger seat, and all you need to do for that is take off the 4 bolts on all 4 corners of the pedestal. It does take a Torx bit, and if you don't have that, you can just use a 10mm 12-point socket, and that will get those off pretty easily. So then after that, I just went underneath the van and made sure I wasn't going to hit anything. Made sure there's no tubing or any wiring or the frame. I made sure all that was clear. And then I went ahead and put down the gasket that comes off the bottom of the diesel heater. Put that down in place and put it in a spot that matched that. And I already drilled 1 hole to make sure I wasn't going to hit anything to be positive before I drilled any big holes. And now I'm going to go ahead and trace the bigger holes and cut those out with a 1.5 inch hole saw. You could use a 1 1/4 inch hole saw, and that would be the proper size. I just don't have one, so I'm going to go a little bit bigger than I need to, but that should be no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that now. Okay, as you can see, my 1.5 inch hole saw overlapped the mounting holes by a little bit. It's not going to be a big deal because of the way that the heater mounts. The sheet metal and the gasket will sandwich the mounting hardware together, so not a big deal. But ideally, you would use a 1 1/4 inch hole saw. So the next thing I'm going to do is file down all the sharp edges with a metal file, and I'm going to vacuum up all these metal shavings and give this a little bit of paint to prevent any rust, and then we'll start putting the heater itself together. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and install my tubing before I put it into the holes, because especially this exhaust tubing is pretty hard to get on. So I'm also going to put on the fresh air intake tube, as well as these double-sided screws. One side screws in to these holes, and the other side goes into this nut. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, now that all that is on, I did want to note real quick, there's not really any clear directions on this. The fresh air intake tube is the one that is closest to the fuel line right here. So the exhaust is the one further away. The fresh air intake one is the one closest to that. Now I'm going to start installing the hose that supplies the heat to the cabin of the van. We just do that with using these clamps. I'm going to slide that onto the tubing before I put it down in here. And just try to orient the tube and mold the tube to the way you want it before you get it in here, because it's kind of hard to move around. And then once we get the tubing on, we can grab the drill to tighten on the clamp. Okay, so now it's nice and secure. And now we can mark where we want to put our hole that's going to be on the outside of the pedestal. I'm going to install the vent that goes onto the hose. I'm going to do that using a 3-inch hole saw, and just be careful to leave space for the area around the hole, so don't do it too high up or it won't sit flush with the metal. So come down a little bit more in the middle of the area. And make sure to wear safety goggles for that, or glasses, as it does spray a lot of metal out. And now I'm going to go ahead and vacuum all this metal up as good as possible, because you don't want to leave any metal exposed onto the paint or it will start rusting it. And then I'm going to paint the area around the hole to make sure that doesn't rust. Okay, what I need to do now is connect the wiring harness from the main unit down to the fuel pump. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to use an existing drain plug that's in the pedestal already, and the biggest problem though is that my plug right here is too big to fit through that hole. And there's no way to disconnect the wires from either plug without a lot of trouble and soldering and all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wire in half and then splice it back together within the pedestal and stick the two wires up through that drain plug. So I just cut the wires and I realized that I really need to know which wire is which, since they're both yellow wires. I don't really know if it matters. But I'm going to play it safe and try to keep these wires straight. So I'm going to cut some of the sleeving off here. I'm going to lay this wire down flat. Try to lay it down flat anyway. Let's do this. This is how they were before I cut them. That's that one, and they go together like so. So what I'm going to do now, keep this one in orientation up so I know that this is the correct direction. So try to keep all your wires straight. Cut the sleeving off. So now, just to explain what I just did, is now I know that these two black wires with the electrical tape go together. The ones without the electrical tape go together as well. So now I'm good on that. So now I can take this wire, which is the one that's going to come from the fuel pump up to the actual unit itself that's inside the van, stick these wires through that drain plug, and then I'll be able to go in the van and splice these together with some quick connects. You could use some splicers, which I don't have. That'd be better. I'm going to use these quick disconnects and just electrical tape them up really nice. When I built out the rest of the van, I was sure to run an extra cable up here underneath the passenger seat for the diesel heater. If you haven't done that, you're going to have to run this cable back to wherever your house batteries are. So I'm going to go ahead and strip my wires here. I do have some butt connectors that I'm going to put on here to connect the positive and the negative from the heater to my wires that I've provided. And that's it. So we are good to go on the power cables now. What we can do, we have all of our cables connected off of the main heater going down to all of our different parts of the system. So the only thing that's left to actually hook up is the main harness from the unit to the wiring harness. So there's only one way to do it. There's just a pattern. So you're going to have to line it up and see what direction everything is. Looks like this is going to be like so. Pops right in. Wait for the click. You got to press pretty hard. It is clicked into place. So now this whole area is complete other than wire management. So I'm going to wire manage all of this, make sure it's all tucked away from the heater, but still accessible to this door. For the control panel for the heater, I've decided to actually put it on this B pillar right here. Mount it just like so, right above the seat belt. That's the plan anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and take off this plastic piece and take the seat belt off and go ahead and see if I can get this wiring that's ran from the main harness up through the pillar and mounted onto the plastic. Okay, I have the control panel attached now. It was really pretty easy to get the P-pillar plastic off. You just twist this plastic cover off the hook. It takes a T20 bit. It comes right off, and then slide that back on. Once you have the panel on, down here it takes a 17mm socket to take off the seatbelt bolt. And then down here for the anchor tie down, this is what comes off of that. And that takes a T45 bit. So I had the wire ran all the way straight up the B pillar behind the plastic, and it makes for a very clean install for the control panel. Okay, as you can see, this is the connector that I passed through the floor, and the two wires are going through the grommet. It's going to connect directly to the fuel pump, which is right here. And you can see I've already connected the fuel line right here to the unit that's up underneath the passenger seat. I can't really film that too much just because it's really tight squeeze to get my hands and the tools to tighten the screws. So, but all it was is just putting this up there and tightening it down with the clamp. The same with the exhaust and the intake, the black tube. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and connect this plug to my fuel pump. And it's going to click. It's going to be an audible click. The reason I want to do that prior to screwing this in to the frame of the van is I think it's going to be pretty tight squeeze to click it in, because it does go against the van. The actual clip is against the van, but you could probably do either way. So let's see. I have a little bit of excess wire here, which I can just pull up when I'm done. So it does say that you need to put this at a 35-degree angle, and it does have an arrow. So you'll see this little arrow right there. That is the side that needs to be pointing up, and it's also the side that goes, the line that goes from the pump to the actual unit itself. The other end is the end that goes to the fuel source, the diesel source. In my case, I'm going to tap directly into my diesel tank, but if you're using the provided tank that they give with the kit, this is going to go directly to the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this, and then I'll pick up the camera again and show you what it looks like once it's attached. Okay, this is what it looks like all finished from down here. The black tube is going up to the front. Right there is the air intake. Then this other tube, the exhaust tube, is coming right over here to the muffler. And I do have the muffler oriented in a specific direction. You need to have it in this direction as well, because it does have a weeping hole on the bottom to allow water to escape from it, and that will accumulate water, so make sure that you have it this direction. I'm going to add another length of hose, another 2 feet of this tubing. I've already ordered it off Amazon for $15, so that will be put on there in just a couple days. Don't run the heater while you're in it with the exhaust exiting from underneath the van. This is just temporary. Then right here we have the fuel line coming out from underneath the unit itself that's in the van into my fuel pump, and that is the wiring harness that goes back up through the van and into the wiring harness that's beside the heater. And on the other side of the fuel pump is the rest of the line that runs up and over the exhaust heat shield. Then there's a couple clips, and then there is the fuel filter, and then the quick connect for my diesel tank. So I'll link all of the materials I used outside of the kit. I did get a different fuel line from what the kit provides and a different fuel filter, and then I'll also link the tubing that I got for the extension for the muffler. So that is it for down here, and now we'll go back up top and I will show you what it looks like up there. Okay, this is what the finished product looks like on the inside. Control panel's mounted, the chair's back in, the vent is down there. The control panel is not very user-friendly. It's kind of difficult to use. The first thing you want to do is click this little gearbox, this little gear, upper left-hand corner button. Click on that and set the time. So the first one's flashing, so I would go up or down as needed. Click OK. It'll go to the next number. Click OK. Next number. Click OK. Next number. And then when you're done, just click the top left key again. It'll take you to the timer area where you can set the time for a timer to go on or off. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use it manually, but this is the option for you to do that. And then that brings us back to the main menu, or the main time. So to initially use the system, you need to prime the pump. And in order to do that, you're going to press the OK button and the down button and hold it for just a second. And now it's showing the off button, or OF. In order to get the pump to start priming, you're going to hit the up key. And once you hit the up key, it's going to say on. And you're going to start hearing clicking coming from the pump. That's completely normal. That's priming it. For me, it took about 3 times for it to work, and each priming session is a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And it took 3 full sessions for it to get through to the pump and start actually producing heat. So once it's primed, you're ready to start using the system. And the way you can do that is just press the on button right here, and it says on, and then the fan will start rotating on there. It's flashing on, and it's showing that everything is working properly. It has the glow plug lit up as well, that red thing right there. That indicates that it is heating up, and once it's heated up, that will go away. And once the pump starts, it usually takes about a minute or 2 for the pump to start. The pump indicator will show up right here, and you'll start hearing the clicking. It does click whenever it's producing heat. It will click, so just keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with the system. That's just the way it's supposed to work. So to adjust the temperature, you can just press this up key and this is going to be where you can adjust the temp inside.